Not sure where to start in making your classroom more inclusive, especially when you teach at a campus that will criticize instead of applaud your efforts? Watch this video on how you can be more inclusive, avoid the unnecessary drama of closed-minded opinions during an already mentally and emotionally challenging year, and most importantly, do right by your students. For the best insight, support, and strategies for teaching social studies, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified when I post a new video every Sunday. Teaching at a school district that caters to individual interests instead of the betterment of humanity sucks. It can turn your teaching experience into a never-ending drama where you're antagonized for doing what's right. But when we became educators, we decided that we would advocate for the well-being of our students. So that's exactly what I'll be showing you how to do in this video. This video is not necessarily about treading lightly for fear of doing what's right. It's about doing what's right for your students in a community or school that hasn't caught up with the times yet. What is important is that we keep advocating. By the end of this video, you will have realistic, effective strategies and tools to help you create an inclusive classroom setting so you can show up for your students in a way that doesn't jeopardize your well-being either. If you're new to this channel, hi, I'm Cecilia Tomez, and I have been an educator for over a decade. And for the past 5 years, I've helped fellow history teachers by offering support, resources, and solutions to help them be effective educators and avoid teacher burnout. If you're a new history teacher that could benefit from the support and insight of a nurturing and helpful teacher community, I invite you to join my free Facebook group, the History Teachers Lounge, by clicking the link down below. If you're looking for more personalized solutions, make sure to visit Teach Like an Influencer at the link below to see all the resources and solutions I offer dedicated social studies teachers like you. Now, before we jump in, there are a couple of things that I want you to keep in mind before you start feeling overwhelmed. First thing is start where you are. Progress never looks like a smooth incline, and please don't expect it to. That would be unrealistic. Becoming more inclusive is a process. Now, during this process, we need to learn, we need to adapt, we need to change, we need to listen, we need to be open-minded. We need to be willing to make mistakes in order to become more inclusive in our classroom, in our instruction. Making mistakes is okay. We're not all going to get this pat down 100% the first day. And I want you to make your peace with that. The important thing is to listen to our students, rectify, humbly learn. So important. And to keep trying again. So with that said, let's jump right in. Now, our students are all different, and I want you to think of being inclusive in terms of differentiation, okay? So as an educator, when they tell us we need to differentiate for our students, what is it that we really ask ourselves? How can I make this more equitable and attainable for each and every single one of my students, regardless of their needs? In the same way, when we frame inclusiveness in this context, then we are thinking to ourselves, and the question we're really going to ask ourselves is, how can I make every reward, every activity, every assignment, maybe even every consequence equitable for all my students? Now, I don't know if you've seen this movie called Remember the Titans. It's an oldie but a goodie, and there's a phrase in there.
Now, I may be a mean cuss, but I'm the same mean cuss with everybody out there on that football field.
Now, obviously, I'm not advocating for you to be a mean cuss, but what I am saying is that he was equitable in every aspect of the word. He believed in all his players in the same way, and he challenged and expected a lot from all his players in that exact same way. So how do you know if you really are differentiating in the sense of being equitable and fair and welcoming to your class? I know this is a hard pill to swallow, but the only ones who can determine whether the classroom is an inclusive space, a safe space, are your students. Their feedback is what can help you determine what adjustments need to be made, how you can be more equitable in how you support students, how you help students, how you listen to your class. I know one activity that I do with my students at the beginning of every school year without failure is I have them share on a little sticky note, what do they expect from their peers? What should they say? What should they not say? What do they expect from their teacher? What a good teacher does, what a good teacher does not. So just honestly getting your students' feedback will help you start off at least in the right direction. Not only does getting feedback from our students help us determine how an inclusive setting looks like in our particular circumstance, but it also inadvertently builds a relationship with our students because it helps them feel seen and like you're actually taking the time to ask them what they want out of their educational experience. We've been talking about a lot of little things that make a huge difference when it comes to creating an inclusive classroom. So comment below and let me know, what do you like to do for your students to make them feel welcome, seen, and accepted? Let me know. Now, there has never been a more challenging time to be a history teacher, and that's because with a lot of us teaching in an online setting, you have all these unrequested opinions flooding into your classroom. So how do you teach uncomfortable truths as a history teacher? The first thing you want to make sure is incorporated into your history lesson are different points of view and definitely a variety of primary sources. So you want to make sure that you don't necessarily adhere to the textbook. And if you are trying to ditch your textbook, I'm going to go ahead and link a video up above and down below. But you want to have a variety of resources as well as documentation that you used these resources. Now, if you've ever dealt with maybe a parent saying that you're teaching content that's biased toward a certain, political mindset, or you're teaching history in a way that's going to radicalize your students, I highly, highly, highly advise that you know your state standards like the back of your hand. Now, if you're a new teacher, don't freak out on me. Just have your standards on hand. If you're being told that you can't teach about a certain topic, but it's clearly outlined in your state standards that you are obligated to, and again, I'm not a lawyer, but it's important to document that you're just teaching what you are expected to teach and what your students are expected to know, or they'll be assessed on at the end of the school year. Now, on the topic of using a variety of resources, one can only hope that as the instructor, you are also providing students different questions that have them evaluating these different viewpoints. We want to be very careful that we don't put thoughts or ideas in people's minds, in our students' minds, by the way that we word the question. You want to make sure that your questions allow for the student's mind to formulate and develop their own assumptions based on the experiences and the primary accounts of the people that actually lived these circumstances and these situations. Be mindful of visuals that you use. You need to ask yourself, are your visuals harmful even though they're educational? Or maybe do they low-key perpetuate the idea violence is normal or normal for a specific group of people? If they begin to desensitize the student, and if they're not absolutely essential to the comprehension of a situation or circumstance, then your best bet is just to do without. I find it hard to believe, but I feel like more and more often historical facts are being subject to interpretation, which makes it very challenging when your students come to class with already these preconceived notions that they're learning at home, or they are erroneously clinging to, because of their background or their upbringing. And in order to shift that perspective and shift that mindset, because the what in history is being very highly contested, we want to focus instead on the why. So we're not challenging or contesting that something happened. Something happened. But now let's focus on the why, because that is what will hopefully detract our societies from making the same mistakes over and over. Now, in closing, I want to remind you that doing what's right is never wrong. And if it is wrong, where you happen to be working or teaching, and if you're getting reprimanded or harassed for doing what's right, then you don't need to be teaching at a school district like that. We cannot and should not avoid the battles that need to be fought. Historians have been given the responsibility of telling uncomfortable truth, and it comes with the territory. That's both our burden and our gift. If you found this video helpful, allow me to recommend Teach Without the Textbook. And that video is essentially going to show you how you can replace or supplement your textbook with more inclusive activities for your classroom. And I'll go ahead and link that up above and down below. Also, I highly recommend that you check out my video on social emotional learning for skeptical students. And this is great for embedding SEL practices in your instruction effortlessly. And I will also link that up above and down below for you to check out at the end of this video. Don't forget that my virtual door is always open at Teach Like an Influencer at the link below, where you can check out the support and solutions that I offer. You're an amazing teacher. You're the secret sauce. And I hope you have an amazing day. Until next time, class dismissed.